Blackthorn Mental Asylum, a name that echoes through the annals of time, a place where the walls themselves seem to whisper tales of sorrow and despair. Even the name whispered on the wind sent shivers down your spine. The very mention of Blackthorn conjured images of a place where the line between sanity and madness blurred, where the cries of the tormented echoed through the night. A monument to madness, now crumbling under the weight of its horrific past. The walls, once pristine, now lay in ruins, each crack and crevice a testament to the suffering that took place within. Looming on the edge of town, shrouded in a perpetual mist, it stood as a warning, a foreboding presence that seemed to watch over the town, reminding its inhabitants of the darkness that once resided there, a place where sanity went to die and something truly evil lingered. The hallways, now empty, once echoed with the footsteps of those who would never leave. Rooms that held the secrets of countless souls now stood silent, but their stories remained. Built in 1889, Blackthorn housed the county's most disturbed. It was a place where the most troubled minds were sent, in the hopes of finding some semblance of peace. But peace was a rare commodity within those walls. Whispers of inhumane experiments and unexplained deaths clung to its history. Tales of doctors who pushed the boundaries of medical ethics, and patients who vanished without a trace. The air was thick with the weight of these stories, each one more chilling than the last. Closed for decades, it remained a scar on the landscape. Nature had begun to reclaim the building, vines creeping up the walls and trees growing through the floors, but no amount of greenery could mask the darkness that lay within, a festering wound of secrets. Each room held a story, each corridor a memory. The building itself seemed to breathe, a living entity that held onto its past with a vice-like grip. Some places, you just don't disturb. Blackthorn was one of them, a place where the past and present seemed to collide, where the air was thick with the weight of history, a place best left alone, its secrets buried deep within its walls. Blackthorn was one of them, a haunting reminder of a time when the line between right and wrong was often blurred, and the cries of the tormented were all too real, a place that, even in its abandonment, held a power that could not be ignored. 5 college friends, fueled by youthful arrogance and cheap beer, decided to tempt fate. They had heard the stories, the whispers of Blackthorn Manor, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. It was said to be haunted, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred. But to them, it was just another adventure, another chance to prove their bravery. Mark, the self-proclaimed leader, craved the adrenaline rush of the unknown. He was always the first to jump into any challenge, the one who pushed the boundaries. His friends looked up to him, not just because of his confidence, but because he made them feel invincible. Emily, the skeptic, was along for the ride, hoping to disprove the ghost stories. She was the voice of reason, the one who always questioned the logic behind their escapades. But even she couldn't deny the thrill of the unknown, the excitement that came with each new adventure. Ben, the quiet one, harbored a morbid curiosity. He was fascinated by the macabre, drawn to the dark and eerie. His silence often masked a deep well of thoughts and emotions, and this trip to Blackthorn was no different. He wanted to see if the stories were true, if the ghosts were real. Ashley, the thrill-seeker, lived for the danger. She thrived on the adrenaline, the rush of fear that came with each new challenge. To her, Blackthorn was just another mountain to climb, another fear to conquer. She was always the first to volunteer, the one who pushed the group to go further. And then, there was Chris, the Joker, masking his fear with nervous laughter. He was the one who kept the group's spirits high, the one who made them laugh even in the darkest of times. But beneath the jokes and the laughter, he was just as scared as the rest of them, if not more. Armed with flashlights and a healthy dose of bravado, they approached the rusted gates of Blackthorn. The manor loomed before them, its dark silhouette a stark contrast against the moonlit sky. The air was thick with anticipation, each step echoing in the silence of the night. The air grew heavy, the silence thick with anticipation. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of the old gate seemed amplified in the stillness. They could feel the weight of the place, the history and the stories that clung to it like a shroud. It was as if the manor itself was watching them, waiting for them to make the first move. They had crossed the point of no return. There was no turning back now, no backing out. They had come too far, and the thrill of the unknown was too great to resist. Each of them felt a mix of fear and excitement, a cocktail of emotions that drove them forward. What started as a dare was quickly becoming a nightmare they could not wake up from. The shadows seemed to move, the air grew colder, and the sense of dread deepened. They realized that the stories were not just tales to scare children, but warnings of the horrors that lay within Blackthorn. And now, they were about to find out just how real those horrors were. The old iron gates groaned in protest, their rusty hinges screaming as if warning the intruders of the horrors that lay within. The night was still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl, adding to the eerie atmosphere. As they entered the asylum grounds, a sense of foreboding washed over them. The moonlight cast long, twisted shadows on the overgrown path, making the place look even more sinister. The friends exchanged uneasy glances, each one silently questioning their decision to come here. The air hung heavy with the smell of decay and damp earth. The walls, once white, were now stained with mold and grime, and the floor was slick with moisture. Every step they took seemed to echo through the empty halls, amplifying their growing sense of dread. The group's laughter, nervous and forced, echoed through the eerie silence. They tried to make light of the situation, but their jokes fell flat and their laughter quickly died away, swallowed by the oppressive darkness that surrounded them. They decided to split up, a foolish mistake that would cost them dearly. The plan was to cover more ground and find any signs of the paranormal activity they had come to investigate. But as they separated, the asylum seemed to come alive, its dark corridors whispering secrets and promises of terror. Mark and Emily took the left wing, their flashlights casting weak beams of light that barely penetrated the darkness. They tried to stay close, but the shadows seemed to pull them apart. Their footsteps echoing on the cracked tile floor, they moved cautiously, every creak and groan of the old building making them jump. The air grew colder with each step, and they could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching them. The air grew colder, whispers seeming to emanate from the shadows. It was as if the walls themselves were alive, murmuring secrets and warnings that sent shivers down their spines. Mark and Emily exchanged worried glances, their bravado quickly fading. Ben ventured alone down a darkened corridor, drawn by an unseen force. He felt a strange compulsion to keep moving forward, even as every instinct screamed at him to turn back. The darkness seemed to close in around him, and he could hear faint whispers calling his name. Ashley and Chris, their bravado fading, stuck close, their hands trembling. The asylum had awakened. They could feel its malevolent presence all around them, and every shadow seemed to hide a lurking danger. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they moved deeper into the darkness, knowing that they were not alone. Ben stumbled upon a room untouched by time. Restraints lay on a rusting table, stained a sinister brown. Papers scattered on the floor revealed the asylum's horrific past, experiments, torture, and a darkness that seeped from the pages. Picking up a file labeled Patient Zero, he felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Suddenly a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. Ashley. Panic surged through Ben as he raced towards the sound, dropping the file on the floor. He didn't know it then, but he had just unleashed a malevolent entity, an entity bound to Blackthorn, hungry for release. Mark and Emily, drawn by Ashley's scream, found her cowering in a corner. Chris was gone. The air crackled with an unseen energy. A shadow moved in the darkness, a formless thing of pure dread. It was then they realized they were not alone. The entity, awakened by the disturbance, was hunting them. It moved through the shadows, toying with them, its presence heralded by a bone-chilling cold. They were trapped in a nightmare, their fear a palpable thing, their only thought, escape. Panic surged. They ran blindly through the asylum, the entity's icy breath hot on their heels. The building seemed to twist and turn, a labyrinth designed to trap them. Doors slammed shut, windows refused to break. Blackthorn was playing with them. They finally reached the main entrance, their hearts pounding in their chests. But the doors, once chained, were now bolted shut, trapped. The entity moved closer, its laughter echoing around them, a chilling symphony of madness. This was it. As the entity lunged, a blinding light filled the room. Ben, clutching the forgotten file, stood in the doorway. The entity recoiled, hissing, its form flickering. His name, Ben choked out, fear replaced with a strange calm. Patient Zero. He called him the Shadow. The entity, distracted, turned its attention to Ben. It lunged, tendrils of darkness reaching for him. Mark, in a moment of selfless courage, pushed Ben aside, taking the brunt of the attack. A gut-wrenching scream, then silence. The remaining friends, numb with shock and grief, stumbled out of Blackthorn as the first rays of dawn broke. The asylum stood silent, the mist receding like a nightmare, fading with the sunrise. But the experience had changed them. Their youthful arrogance was gone, replaced by a chilling understanding of true fear. They had entered Blackthorn seeking thrills. They left forever, marked by the horrors they witnessed. They knew deep down that they had escaped with their lives, but left a part of themselves behind, a part claimed by the Shadows of Blackthorn. The authorities dismissed their story as a prank gone wrong, but they knew the truth. Blackthorn was not just a haunted place, it was a conduit, and they had opened the door. As they drove away, Emily glanced back at the asylum, its silhouette stark against the rising sun. In the distance, a lone figure stood on the top floor watching them. It was him, the Shadow. He was free. The nightmare was far from over, it was just beginning.